for every single behavior that you have, both a positive and a negative is happening, right? So what's the pros of you continuing to eat in a way that no longer serves you? What's the pros of eating differently when you're by yourself than you are with your family? That's the pain. The pain is how I feel about myself. So I'm going to eat in secret, right? So that's kind of when you get down into the ugly parts of it is how is that behavior serving you versus how it's not serving you? Because it's real easy to name those off.
Yeah.
Totally is. Totally is.
And that's the work that the people avoid, right? The change is inside the work you're avoiding.
Welcome to Cut the Crap with Beth and Matt, the world's #1 no bullshit health and fitness podcast.
Are you ready to cut the crap with your diet and exercise, get strong as fuck, and build a healthy relationship with food? Then you've come to the right place.
Let's go. If you'd like to support us in the podcast, join our Patreon where you get exclusive content, which consists of monthly workouts you can do at home or at the gym, monthly challenges that are either strength, habit, or mindset based, and access to over 100 plus low-calorie, high-protein, family-friendly meals. These are all designed by a professional chef who is certified in nutrition. These recipes are already in MyFitnessPal for easy fucking tracking. New recipes are also added each week.
We believe that fitness is for everyone, so this is our way of getting you started on your health and fitness journey at a price most everyone can afford. So what the fuck are you waiting for? We'll see you in the Patreon. So we are here today with Mel. Mel is a coach on my team. It's cool because myself, Mel, and Beth, we've all met in person when we were in Oregon. That's where Mel is from, when we were there for our meet and greet. So that was a lot of fucking fun. And we've been talking about doing this a conversation with Mel really just for so long, haven't we?
Like a year now, or probably more than that, actually.
For sure.
Long time.
Yeah.
So Mel, before we get started, it's been a while since we've had a guest on Cut the Crap, so we're honored to have you break that spell for us. Would you like to introduce yourself, Mel, to our lovely audience?
All right. Well, first thing, I am not from Oregon. I simply live here.
I'm sorry.
I'm from the Midwest. I'm originally from Kansas. My family and I moved here in 2017, and we just decided to stick around. But a little bit about me. I am a licensed counselor, therapist, whatever word you want to use. I have a master's degree in mental health and addictive behavior. So most of my practice has been with two very distinct populations that typically don't run into each other, and that is the SPMI, criminally insane individuals. So those with severely, persistently mentally ill, also heavily involved in the criminal justice population, like in and out of incarcerations, whatnot, and those who struggle with eating disorders. They typically don't commingle. So I work with those two populations. Been doing that since, oh my gosh, I'm just about to age myself, 2007. So I've been doing that a long time. What else about me? I love CrossFit. I'm a mom. I got some dogs. I'm a recent widow. That's a new development in the last year. And I am pursuing my doctorate. So that's a start.
I didn't know that you're pursuing your doctorate. That's fucking awesome.
Yeah. I am. Yeah.
That's
I put it on hold. I started that journey right before I lost my husband. And then, that kicked us all in the ass still is some days, but decided to pick that back up and pursue that. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you're only a year away from losing your husband, right?
Yeah. Correct. Yes. Yeah. It was a year just passed on September 5th.
So can we go back before that even a little bit? Could you give us a little bit of background on yourself, Mel? Because I know you've got a really interesting history that we could talk about that kind of lays the groundwork for like the conversation we're going to have today.
Yeah, absolutely. So I myself am in recovery from an eating disorder. I grew up with an anorexic mother who lost her life to her eating disorder. I always chuckle when I share that because my mother's favorite quote was, "There's only two things you can't avoid in life, and that's death and taxes." And she passed away on April 15th, which is tax day. And I was like, I know, right? So she was very, very young. So she passed away at 53 from anorexia. Wow. And then I was peaking in my battle for my life while she was losing hers. And it wasn't until about 2 years after she passed away that I found recovery for myself from my eating disorder when I hit my absolute rock bottom, and that was losing my child. I was pregnant and severely struggling with anorexia in a larger body. And in 2009, that wasn't recognized as something that could exist.
Mhm.
but it does very much exist. You can be in a larger body and be malnourished. Doctors just couldn't wrap their head around that. So went into preterm labor, ended up losing our son, myself in that whole process. And that's how I started my journey to healing my relationship with food, shifting my practice once I got myself together towards working with that population, but then discovering mindful eating and learning that intuitive eating doesn't work for everybody. It sure as hell doesn't work for me because intuitively I'm neurotic as fuck. So I got to find something else. And that's where mindful eating came in and just kind of took it from there. Fell in love with CrossFit, fitness, met y'all on social media.
And the rest is history.
Moved cross country, all sorts of things. So just a whole gamut of stuff happened. But
yeah, the old tiki-taki brought us all three together, really. And around the same time, you guys, I mean, you're both my big sisters, my adoptive big sisters. So we got the whole family here together today.
Right?
Yes, for real. But that was the big catalyst, was seeking help and trying to find help and telling people over and over again, I'm struggling with eating. I'm rapidly losing weight as a pregnant woman. Hello, red flag, but nothing's registering. And there were no resources out there.
And you said that was like 2009?
2009. Yep.
Eating disorders were still relatively misunderstood. I mean, they're still misunderstood, but we really didn't understand them, 15 years ago.
Right.
Yes. They were very much still your thin white woman. I have the white woman part down. And at the time I was not thin, and I'm not thin now. I'm still somewhat mid-sized. I'm somewhere between an 8 to a 14, depending how something is made. God forbid we have universal sizing, but whatever.
Right.
And then I was over 300 pounds. And they're like, there's no way you could be starving yourself. Look at you. But actually I was.
Yeah. So can you tell us a little bit more about that, Mel? Because you were diagnosed with both anorexia and bulimia, right?
Yes, bulimia. Yes.
Yeah.
So
which are really they're opposite ends of the spectrum in a way, right?
Yes. But so sometimes when you look at your medical chart, there's this whole big old list of diagnoses, right? So I've got the big 3 on there: anorexia, bulimia, and binge eating disorder. Again, eating disorders are heavily misunderstood. And what a lot of medical professionals don't understand is within anorexia, there's a binge purge component. Not a lot of times, as soon as you say binge or purge, we're going to slap on either a bulimia or a binge eating disorder. But with the binge eating disorder, you're not purging. You're just binging, right? So if someone's taking your social history and you forget to give the purge part and you're just saying binge, a tick of a box, suddenly you have a diagnosis of binge eating disorder. Right. So I firmly believe I do not have binge eating disorder, that I'm not in recovery from binge eating disorder. I do not take ownership of that. I have slid the gamut heavily between anorexia and bulimia, but I struggled the most with restriction. So that's where I ended up heavily on that side. For me, what I believe is anorexia, but I do have those both diagnoses, because bulimia is where you have that you're purging in some form, right? But then knowing, as the new research and stuff that comes out, and you look in your DSM-5, there is that binge purge component to anorexia. And I try not to get really people want to get caught up on what's my diagnosis? What's my diagnosis? What's my
labels, right?
Right. Your diagnosis isn't going to change how you approach your behaviors, because that's what we're looking at, right? When you're looking at eating disorders or depression or any other mental health condition that you want to put up there, right? Yeah, there may be some medications that can help, specifically if we're looking with chemical imbalances within the brain. But when we're looking at behaviorally driven disorders, which is a lot of what eating disorders are, we gotta figure out what we're gonna do to slow your roll, right? So for me, having all the knowledge that I have as a professional in the field, all the tools were out there. I was struggling with applying them practically. I was like, I could see them, but I couldn't grab them and apply them because I was so deep down into my disorder. Because it's almost like an out of body experience when you struggle with an eating disorder. It's called your ED voice, right? I named mine. Her name's Jessica. Sorry, anybody named Jessica, nothing personal, but it's almost like it just comes over you and consumes you and just takes control, right? And just tells you, like, don't eat this, don't eat that, you're going to get fat, you're going to do this, you're going to do that. And I was, again, in a larger body, And people were like, well, how can you be in a larger body but you're still starving yourself? And I was like, because there are times when I did eat. And you're also forgetting that genetics play a role in how I look and things like that. And I can eat 3,000 calories and maybe I'm only purging. And I'm really sensitive with this because I don't know who's listening and I don't want to
we'll put up a
giving
disclaimer
people,
for sure.
right. And I don't want to be giving
we don't whatever you don't feel comfortable talking about, like, please.
I'm just mindful of who's listening and the knowledge that I'm putting out there. You can absolutely gain weight and still be restricting at the same time based on the nutrients that you are choosing to ingest. It's just complex. I struggled with eating disorder since I was a young age. My mother was one of the first individuals that taught me about drinking massive amounts of water to silence your hunger cues. She's like, this is how we do it. And this is
so early on, you had these behaviors and this lifestyle kind of modeled for you. And that's something we talk about with everything. Like it starts there, right?
Yeah.
Right. And then just having kids. And sometimes when you have kids, you don't lose that weight. And then that just fuels that cycle moving forward. And I did find myself as I got older, I just gained more weight, which then fueled that desire to starve more. And then I became this weird medical cycle of just disordered eating and just trying to figure out what the fuck's going on with my body at the whole time, trying to just figure it out. Yeah, it was a mess.
Yeah.
To sum it up.
Now, did you go and seek help for this? How did you change your life around?
I tried to get help many times. I did. Told my doctor many times. Not my primary care doctor. What are they called? I can't think of the word. You're obese. With that, I was struggling. Because when I wasn't pregnant, I didn't give two fucks. I would just do whatever. I would eat, I wouldn't eat. It didn't matter. But then I would get pregnant again because apparently I'm quite fertile. I get pregnant again. And then I would just like, oh shit, I got this baby I got to worry about. So I would reach out for help. And it was one look at me. There was like, oh, well,
So a lot of like weight stigma still that kept you from getting the help that you need.
Right. You can't be struggling because you're obese. Right. So therefore you're automatically unhealthy for that reason. And yes, I'm not going to get into the whole debate of, excess adipose tissue and how that is, whatever.
That's a conversation for another day.
Yeah. I'm a firm believer that fit doesn't have a size, right?
I think we would all agree on that.
Yeah.
That was an automatic thing. It's like, take a look at me. You're fat. You're unhealthy. Okay.
We hear that so much with our clients and with our followers too. It's still very well and alive today.
Oh, especially when they go to the doctor's office and they get weighed, and then that's immediately like, oh, you're obese because this says this. It's like, well, what you may be the healthiest person in the world, but you have a higher body fat or whatever. You're just,
your BMI.
Yeah, exactly.
It was always the BMI, and then they would always do the labs, or they would always take the blood pressure, and was always shocked, like, oh my gosh, your blood pressure is like really low. Yeah, probably because I'm not eating, or like my pulse is like 54, and all these other things. They're like, what? And I'd go in and get labs, and labs would come back, and it would just be very clear.
But because you weren't showing really any symptoms, they're like, oh, you're fine.
Right.
Even though mentally you have got this anguish, you've got this turmoil that you're dealing with, and this internal dialogue and battle that you're fighting. Literally fighting for your life and fighting for the life of your own family.
And I would say things like, I'm tired, whatnot. That's because you're fat. No, it's not because I'm fat.
Lose some weight and you'll feel better. Yeah.
Right. So yes,
go on a walk, you'll feel better.
I did try to get help multiple times and it wasn't there. And eating disorders is ridiculous, but trying to get diagnosed with something other than binge eating disorder, which wasn't around, was just hell. It just wasn't going to happen. It just wasn't. It wasn't even like something that anyone could possibly imagine, that you can not be underweight and be malnourished. It just blew people's mind.
Yeah, totally. So, okay, thank you for the background and the information. I think that really does give people a really good understanding of where you came from and what you're all about. So we wanted to talk today because I made a post earlier this week that has I think started a really good conversation, I think, and that's why we're here today. So my post was something along the lines of calorie tracking is the world's oldest diet or something like that, right? Over 100 years old. And I asked people like how long they've been calorie tracking and things like that. So that's kind of what started this whole thing. And right, obviously I'm not against calorie tracking. What I'm trying to do with these conversations is just have deeper conversations, right? And look at the context behind calorie tracking, why we're using calorie tracking and our relationship with it. So that's kind of where this all started, I think, and where we're at right now. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I have a lot to say about that too. I'm sure we all have a lot to say about it. I have my own opinions, right? Because
so
I'm going to be honest here. I am all about calorie tracking for the right person. Not everyone should calorie track. I think it creates awareness. It's not just for weight loss. Anyone can take a tool and make it disordered. Literally fucking anybody, right? I think why are we calling calorie tracking a diet? Is mindful eating a diet? You know what I mean? Like, I don't care, call whatever a diet you want, but it's a tool in my eyes and how we use it in our coaching and our behavior. Like, it's not something someone should be doing forever, right? It's like you use this tool and then you move forward because you're creating awareness. Honestly, for me, calorie tracking helped me heal my relationship with food because I was afraid of eating certain foods because I thought they would make me gain fat. So being able to see and track it, it's like, okay, I'm actually seeing results by eating these foods that I feared because I was deep in orthorexia. It actually helped me. So I think if you're using something as a tool that helps you from something that's really fucked up, that there's nothing wrong with it. But like I said, anybody can take something and make it disordered. It depends, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
But I don't think it's a diet. It's a tool. It's a mechanism. That's like saying calorie deficit is a diet when it's actually just a mechanism in which you lose fat. So that's where my stance is. I believe it's a good tool, but I also believe that people can make it disordered.
I agree with you. It's a great tool. We are definitely in agreement there. I'd love to hear what Mel's thoughts are on it for sure. I want to be very clear here. I don't think calorie tracking is bad. Just because I'm saying that I think it's portrayed as a diet a lot of the time is really what I mean by that is it's being used as a diet, as a crunch. So that's a crunch.
Yeah.
Crunch.
You said crunch.
Did I say crunch? So that's where I'm coming from that. And I agree, right tool for the right person. Like you said, I don't think it's a forever tool. I think that's where we go wrong. I think as an industry, it's still being used as a forever tool. I've been talking with so many people about their experiences with calorie tracking. And obviously we still calorie track with our clients. We're not going to stop tracking with all of our clients, but we do have that as an option to track or to not track. And if you do track, we're going to make sure that you do it in a healthy way. But at the end of the day, I think if we're saying it's a tool and it's not to be used forever, that's a diet in a way, right? Like it's the same thing, in my opinion, as if we say any of these other things that we're just using short term. They're just tools. We're using it as a means to an end. That's also in a way like a diet, right? And I think if we were to take away the negative stigma that we have associated with dieting, and I think that's definitely my own doing because I've been so adamantly anti-diet and been like, hey guys, like we need to stop dieting. And then here I am saying, hey, calorie tracking is a diet, right? So it seems confusing, but the way I'm talking about it is how it's being used in a diet. And at the end of the day, calorie tracking was created to be a diet. Like that's why it was originally created over 100 years ago. So if it was intended to be a diet and it's been used throughout history as a diet, I guess I don't understand, like what makes it not a diet? That's my stance.
Well, who actually said that this is a diet? The one that created the 1,200 calorie thing?
Well, calorie tracking didn't exist before she created the system for calorie tracking. It's pretty wild. Pretty wild.
I'd love to hear Mel's thoughts on it.
Yes, absolutely. That's why
that's why she's here.
And also, I want to say, I love that we can disagree too, Beth.
Yeah, I mean, obviously.
That's what this is all fucking about.
Yeah, I think there's good points on all fronts.
For sure.
So where I come from is I come through the lens of shifting the focus from anything that's external to internal. And that kind of ties back to what I was saying when we were talking a little bit about my past is if we really want to foster a change in behavior, we have to build that internal awareness first and foremost. So I'm looking at it through the lens of if external factors are driving my behaviors when it comes to food, that's where it comes from. Like when we prioritize external factors over internal factors, I firmly believe that is a diet, whether it's calorie tracking, calorie deficit, keto, intermittent fasting, whatever. Some are absolute shit and should just die and never return.
Absolutely.
Keto is one of
agree.
those. Okay.
Yes. Carnivore.
Right. And then others are diets through the lens that I'm looking at it through. But that, as Matt was saying, and you were saying, Beth, that doesn't inherently mean it's evil or it's a bad thing. It's how you're going to use that particular diet tool. And then to answer the question, is mindful eating a diet? No, mindful eating is a practice that is focused solely on the internal stuff that's going on here. I don't care what the fuck you're eating. We're just going to eat it with an awareness of what your body's telling you in response to it. How is it tasting? Do you even fucking like it? Are you full? Are you hungry? Where are you at? Because it's about developing that internal awareness. So then as you are healing that relationship with food, you can be like, I am ready to take this to the next level. So maybe that means a calorie deficit.
Then
for
it's calorie
you,
tracking.
and you're going to pull that tool in. Maybe that means you need to bulk for whatever reason. Maybe you need to increase your fiber, right? So, and that's where you can start introducing more effective diet tools in that area. That's my take on it. But
See,
don't even
I
open that toolbox until your inner stuff is sorted out, because then you're going to constantly interfere with the ability to know what your body is telling you.
Yeah, I totally agree. And why people with eating disorders should not be tracking calories, right? Because they haven't worked on what really actually needs to be worked on in the first place. So that tool would not work for that person. They should not start there.
Right. And there's individuals that haven't been diagnosed with an eating disorder, but do struggle with disordered eating, which can be also as debilitating, that you don't need to be tracking shit right now.
One thing I've been hearing a lot of this week is people use calorie tracking because they don't want to lose control. That is the only reason why they continue to calorie track. And to me, that's a big fucking problem. That goes against what we are trying to accomplish as the fitness industry. It becomes
maybe because they started tracking calories because they were already disordered, and that would be the reason, because they didn't work with a coach.
Right, and we're not saying
just doing that on their own or whatever, and then those people haven't worked on the behaviors and the mindset that they need to actually not ever track again if they needed to. Do you know what I'm saying? So it's like someone coming to you with an eating disorder, tracking calories, when they need to work on the eating disorder first. And that's why they feel like they're out of control if they don't track. So it's like it's a tool, but also the tool shouldn't be used for that person. Do you know what I mean? So like we have all these people, like they're out there in the public just doing their tracking. They're not seeing a coach. They're not seeing a therapist. They're not getting the help that they actually need for the problem that they have.
So yes. And when I work with individuals that are diagnosed with an eating disorder that have been referred to me through their psychologist or whatever, family practitioner, one of the first things that we work on is just that baseline, right? So you got to figure out hunger, fullness, right? And again, I'm just part of the team. There's dietitians, there's lots of other people that are, my role there is just on that behavioral part. So let's just look at that through the lens of, let's back up a little bit. Somebody that doesn't even have an eating disorder, the population that Beth, you work with, Matt, you work with, right? That we work with, right? The people that are just coming to us for help. If you don't know your hunger, fullness cues, you're going to struggle. You're not going to be successful, right? Because a lot of times people don't understand that basic physiological sign from their body that they're hungry or they're full. They're getting that confused with appetite. So we all know what hunger is. Appetite is the desire to eat for a variety of different reasons. Maybe it's social. Maybe it's timing. Maybe you're bored, whatever. That is not hunger. That's appetite. Totally different thing. So when you think about all the things that interfere with your ability to attune to your body, tracking could be one of those for people. Sticking to certain foods could be one of those. Oh, I can't eat low carb. Says who? Like eat carbs and see what your body tells you, right? It's like, that's part of like building that awareness. So any form of diet, like I said, whether it's keto, paleo, low fat, whatever, if you're prioritizing those rules over what your body is saying, you're going to struggle. You're not going to be successful.
So what you're saying is like doing those other things are getting in the way of you being able to really truly be in tune with yourself and trust yourself, which is really where that need for control comes from, because people don't trust themselves.
Right. Because they're always like, I can't have that food in the house because I don't trust myself around that food. That food is not going to crawl in your mouth when you're sleeping.
Right.
Calm down, right? It's not going to hold a knife to your throat and be like, eat me, bitch. No. So you just cool it.
I don't know. People will tell us the craziest fucking things. So sometimes it's not everybody else's fault and everything else's fault except these people's fault, right?
I get it. And I laugh because I was like that. Like I had that fear, that anxiety around food, right? I don't want you to walk into your kitchen and be like, fuck, it's a bagel. It's just a bagel. So learning how to listen to what your body's telling you know what? If you feel like you can't trust yourself around that bagel, sit down, eat that bagel, and we're going to eat it mindfully, which means, again, we're going to be paying attention. Do you even like that bagel? Right? How soon are you going to be hungry again? I guarantee you're going to be hungry in 15 fucking minutes because it's a bagel. It's not going to last you very long, right? That's just breaking up with all of those food rules and this fear that you're just going to lose control. And then on a Tuesday, I'm going to be 185. And by Friday, I'm going to be 410 because I ate a bagel. Let's break down that irrational thought.
As a parent, our days are filled with joy, challenges, and countless memories of connection. And let's be real here, more often than not, chaos can feel downright unavoidable. And in those moments, maintaining our peace and well-being are absolutely crucial. And you should know by now that I love talking about all things mindfulness. So this message is for all you mindful parents out there seeking a natural path to tranquility and presence. Cured Nutrition understands the unique stressors we face every day. Whether it's waking up early to take the kids to school or playing taxi as you shuttle everyone from practice to practice, let's not forget that you still have your daily responsibilities with your own career. That's why they created their Serenity Gummies, your go-to ally in managing the complexities of parenthood with ease. These gummies aren't just a treat. They're a blend of science-backed, health-supporting ingredients like full-spectrum cannabinoids, ashwagandha, reishi mushroom, and L-theanine. Each ingredient is chosen for its ability to support your physical, mental, and emotional sense of calm. Now imagine unwinding from the day's hustle with a natural alternative to alcohol, helping you to improve your presence, mindfulness, and overall well-being. Now oftentimes we turn to alcohol as a way to alleviate stress, but take it from someone that has a long look at his relationship with alcohol. That really only makes things worse. The Serenity Gummies offer a more holistic tool to have in your arsenal so that you can feel good about feeling good. I personally enjoy the passion fruit flavor. It's sweet with some kind of an earthy undertone. I'm no expert when it comes to tasting things. I just know what works for me, what tastes good. In addition to that, each gummy is precisely dosed to guide me to my happy place. Now, Cured Nutrition is offering an exclusive 20% off discount just for our listeners when you purchase Serenity Gummies. Visit www.curednutrition.com/CTC and use coupon code CTC at checkout. That's CURED nutrition.com/CTC, coupon code CTC to embrace a state of relaxation and balance. Remember, protecting your peace is just one gummy away. Now take a moment for yourself and find serenity in the midst of life's whirlwind moments. Because you, as a parent, deserve to support your well-being and do something for yourself so you can continue serving others like the badass that you are. Protect your peace and pop a gummy. Irrational thought. There are a lot of those going on when we're dieting.
Oh, I probably have 25 a day.
You probably have 25 of them right now.
Probably.
So, like, you're not here to teach calorie tracking, Mel, but have you ever done calorie tracking? Because you've gone into intentional fat loss phases, even as a mindful eater, as have I, right?
Yes, I've done fat loss phases. I've done bulky phases. The one thing that I do have to track every day of my fucking life, which I hate, is carbohydrates because I am diabetic. But that's the good Lord had to humble me some way. I mean, hello. Have you met me?
You needed to slow your roll a little bit, huh?
Right. So I do have to take that into consideration. But again, that's a different reason why, right? Am I like, oh my God, I can't have that bagel because it's going to make me fat? No, actually, I kind of want to have maybe a stable blood sugar. But there was a point in my life where I was solely concerned with how the food was going to make me look, which again is the driving voice behind eating disorders. Anorexia in particular is how this obsessive, like I have to look a certain way, and less on how the food can serve me. And part of healing that relationship with food is now I don't care what the food is. I want to know, how can I get the maximum bang for my buck nutrition wise? So I'm choosing foods that my body loves with at least mental energy as possible. But also I want to make sure it tastes good, because if it doesn't taste good, I'm not going to fucking eat it. That's a waste of my energy. Right. And that's a lot of times.
You're not going to eat
another,
pizza on a Friday night, are you, Mel?
fuck that. No, I hate pizza. Right. So a lot of times people get stuck into this dieting trap of like and then they go off the rails because they've eaten fucking chicken and broccoli 5 days in a row. Come on, Linda.
Right.
Of course,
Yeah.
of course you're not one.
I want to highlight, we all agree on all of these things. We all agree.
Oh,
on
yeah,
all of these things, other than the
absolutely,
terminology that I'm choosing to call calorie tracking now, just to have these conversations. So
I love it. I love these conversations.
For sure.
Exactly. And I've been talking about people healthifying things, which is
I love that video you did yesterday.
Turning people, they're like freaking the fuck out at me, right? It's like, we have turned cauliflower into literally fucking everything. And I'm like, do you really actually love cauliflower crust, cauliflower rice, cauliflower mash? That started with the keto days. I've done it. And that's when
cauliflower rice is dog shit. I actually like mashed cauliflower. That's one of those things that depends, right?
And some of it's good, right? But are you actually eating this because you actually like it? Or are you eating this for another fucking reason and making yourself think that you actually like it, which is something that I did. And people are like, oh my God, you don't have any gluten sensitivities. I'm like, this is not about gluten sensitivities or the fact that you're trying to get more fucking vegetables in. Like, listen to what the message that I'm trying to say. Like, we have,
you do not need to eat the cauliflower rice to be healthy and to crush your goals. Right?
In fact, so you're going to make cauliflower pizza so you can eat the whole pizza. Right. Because you think it's
overeat
good
without feeling bad about it.
Right. So you're going to binge on the cauliflower pizza and not eat the regular pizza because the regular pizza is bad. Meanwhile, you're, cauliflower cheese and egg and whatever. And it makes no sense to me. And to try to justify that, it's like, I get it. I try to justify it. And when you're in it, you don't see it. But when you're on the outside, you can look inward and see exactly what's happening.
I agree.
That's
with
a great
that
example.
So much.
Beth, of how someone has taken the word healthy and attached the word diet to it. And
healthy is a diet anymore, right?
Right. And now it's becoming something because, clean was the buzz phrase for a while. So now we have a healthy diet where we're using the cauliflower this, the cauliflower that, the gluten-free this, and all that stuff. It's just another way of masking diet culture in our mainstream environment. And, we're here, we call them out. And so it brings it back to just focusing on that internal awareness of what your body's telling you, because we all know little kids come into the world, they're not like, oh my God, should I have this because it has gluten and sesame oils? No, they're just gonna fucking eat the food, and then they're gonna stop when they're full.
And then they're gonna probably go eat something else because they still didn't get satisfied, right? So
and it's just
for me, I love the mashed cauliflower because I just like the way it tastes, and it's a convenient way to get more vegetables in. Right. I'm not eating that in lieu of mashed potatoes. I'll have both of those things at the same fucking time.
It's the intention behind it.
Yeah.
The mindfulness.
Yes. The mindfulness.
Right. That's like, okay, I need more veggies. I do like cauliflower rice. Maybe I can add this to something else. Or, it's really like, why are you doing this? Are you doing it because of fear or because of you actually want to get more vegetables in?
Yeah. It's a fear-driven behavior.
Yeah.
So, and here in the Pacific Northwest, it's gluten. Like everything to me is gluten. Like, is it gluten-free? Is it good? You want to know what's gluten-free? Shut the fuck up. That's
right. And imagine like you have celiac disease. They would do anything for a piece of fucking bread, a regular piece of bread. And here there are people are literally like staying away from it because of the fear of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
But yes, I have tracked.
Yeah. So when you went into a fat loss phase, did you track then still, or did you do that mindfully? Because you lost weight, I think last year or 2 years ago, right?
I lost weight 4 years. Jesus Christ.
Was it that long ago?
4 years ago. Yeah. COVID-19. Yeah. 2018 is when I started.
Oh, so I didn't know you then. Okay.
No, you didn't know me then. I was started right around 2018. I was in the middle of it. So however many years ago that was. And I started out a calorie deficit, decided I wanted to do calorie deficit. And that's when I started CrossFit, found CrossFit. And then
You're a CrossFit coach?
Yep, I'm a CrossFit coach now.
Whoa.
And then I noticed when I was in a calorie deficit that I was starting to notice some sneaky behaviors of my own that I just wasn't comfortable with. I was starting to like rationalize a little bit, like, oh, I'll eat this, but I won't track it. And I'm like, So I
Listen
really
up,
just
people,
didn't.
because a lot of you are
Yeah.
probably doing this that are listening.
Yeah.
Act like you didn't
I
have
didn't
it.
like that. And so I noticed that and I was like, well, okay, I don't like that about myself. So then I stepped away from tracking for a little bit. I was like, but then let me go back. And then it started to get a little bit obsessive. And I remember the day that I popped a piece of gum into my mouth and I was driving down the road and I thought, I wonder if I should track that. And I was like, what the fuck?
Like, what the fuck,
Slapped
Octavia?
myself. Yep. I was like, hold up. So I pulled over on that day on the side of the road and I immediately deleted the app off my phone. And I had a personal trainer at the time. And I said, I will never track another thing. I won't do it. Not right now. And then what I did was I just prioritized listening to what my body was telling me in response to this increase in fitness. Because I started on a new fitness journey that I'd never gone before. I've always been active, even in a larger body. I played sports, I rode horses, motorcycles, dirt bikes, all that stuff. I've always been fit, I guess you could say.
Yuck.
But CrossFit, it's a whole nother journey, right? Like we go in with the sheer intention of I might die and then come out.
Yeah.
And like,
You're trying to kill yourself.
Right?
Right.
It's not that bad. It's not that bad, really.
You guys are crazy. That's for sure. Not my
I just
cup
have
of
to be
tea.
dramatic first. It's not that bad.
Mel, you'd be dramatic? No.
Yeah. Right. So I just listened to what my body was telling me. And then I was like, bitch, you need to eat if you're going to do this. So I really started prioritizing.
You can't be really restricting when you're doing shit like CrossFit and that intense physical activity.
So I was ended up being pretty sure I was in the surplus, but I was still losing. Body recomposition was happening. It was happening fast because I was moving my ass in ways that I hadn't before and loving every minute of it because I won't do exercise that I don't like. If I don't fucking like it, I'm not going to do it. So I'm not going to force myself to do something and then I'm just going to build a resentment and hatred.
Fuck burpees.
Right. I actually like burpees.
I know.
So yeah. And then I got to where I wanted to be. And then I decided I wanted to take up powerlifting. And then I decided to track again for the sheer purpose of putting on muscle. And that time when I walked into the arena of tracking, then I was in a different headspace and I had no trouble. It wasn't any of this.
Because you weren't necessarily using it as a diet, right?
I wasn't using it as a diet or anything like that. I was just like, I'm a squirrel. I need to make sure that I'm hitting these protein markers so I can lift what I want to lift, do what I want to do. And I did that for about a year or so. Got the goals that I wanted, got the gains, had a strength coach at the time. And then I was okay, cool. And haven't really tracked.
So you were able to have that healthier relationship with it then eventually.
Yes. Yeah.
Because your goals had shifted and your mindset.
I was going to say, you had really good awareness to know when to say when. You're like, you know what? This is not good for me currently. I need to stop this. Yes. When you were in a better headspace.
Yeah. This is kind of, I think, what I would love to see as a fitness industry is I don't want calorie tracking to go away. I would love it if like the mindful stuff, the mindset stuff was a prerequisite. Like let's do this stuff first. And then 6 months from now, then we go into calorie tracking because that's what we see in this industry so much. And your team doesn't like this, Beth. I know you guys do it plenty of ways, different ways, but so many people just put people straight into calorie tracking without doing their due diligence, without even getting a baseline for what their calorie and food intake is like, right? Like they're not even doing a food journal with people to get their 1 or 2 weeks of regular eating before they sign them calorie goals and macro goals. And that's fucked up. They're not evaluating behaviors and things like that. That is what I want to see change in this industry is let's do the work first. And that's going to be a harder buy-in, of course, right? With our clients and with our listeners and the public is delaying that gratitude and doing the work that is going to get them into a good place where they can track if they want to and have a healthy relationship with it and not use it as that diet and crutch. That's what I see. That's what I would love to see in this industry. And I think we probably all agree with that. And then how we get there, who the fuck knows? That's what I'm trying to figure out. And that's why we're having these conversations.
Yeah, I definitely would like to get there. I would also like it to be some sort of prereq that if you're going to want to change your body shape in any way, form, or whatever, that you also need to have a counselor or someone that you are talking to about what's wrong with your body the way it is right now. And everybody would be like, oh, I want to be healthy. I want to be this. I want to be that.
It's challenge. You got to start challenging those beliefs, right?
Yeah. What's really going on? Because Matt, you probably know, you've been many of the calls with me with the group coaching, is it's never really about the food. There's so much stuff underneath there that when you start uncovering it, that it's really rooted in some deep-seated beliefs of maybe feeling like you're not worthy or whatever's going on inside here that manifests in displeasure in our bodies and who we are and whatnot. So, so that should be a prereq.
I agree. That's funny because me and Beth were actually approached a couple of years ago about doing our own reality TV, and we started brainstorming like what would we want to do with people? What would we need to do a real reality TV and guide somebody through weight loss and a health and fitness change? And me and Beth were like, we need a team. We need a dietitian, we need a doctor, and we need a therapist to help us go through these transformations with people.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Because a lot of times, people want to look at, like, it's real easy to look at all the reasons why we shouldn't do something. Like I should stop doing this. I should stop doing that. Right. I want you to tell me why you're doing it. Because for every single behavior that you have, both a positive and a negative is happening. Right. So what's the pros of you continuing to eat in a way that no longer serves you? What's the pros of eating differently when you're by yourself than you are with your family? That's the pain. The pain is how I feel about myself. So I'm going to eat in secret. Right. So that's kind of when you get down into the ugly parts of it, is how is that behavior serving you versus how it's not serving you? Because it's real easy to name those off.
Yeah.
Totally is.
And that's the work that the people avoid, right? The change is inside the work you're avoiding.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. It always is. It always is. It's that uncomfortable feeling and just doing hard shit. And also when you start to, like, it's going to be ugly, right? And this is just a quote that we put up on our group coaching this week was, what is the way through hell is through misery, right? You have to suffer if you want to get out of hell.
Yeah.
You're going to.
Yeah. That's that Marsha Linehan quote. One of my favorite ones. Pain is inevitable. Suffering is
optional.
That's what I meant. Sorry. I missed.
Yeah. That's what we say when we are about to go run a race. That's what I used to say before a trail race.
Entering the pain cave, right?
Yeah. So from the DBT, dialectical behavioral therapy. Yeah. It's a great quote. I believe it to be true. Pain is inevitable.
Yeah.
Right?
I agree. And if we can talk about you, you've been through a lot of pain in your life, right? And presumably a lot of suffering in your life too, with everything that you've gone through.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's easy to dwell on that, to be like, oh, lost a mother, I lost siblings, a child, a husband, right? Well, that's a lot of grief. And people say to me all the time, you're so strong, you're so this, you're so that. No, life is going to happen with or without my consent, right? Like, these things are going to happen. So being able to accept that pain is inevitable. And then I'm not going to be one of those people that has toxic positivity either and be like, oh, well, it happened for a reason. No, maybe it didn't. So maybe today I'm okay with it. Maybe tomorrow I'm not. And that's okay too, right? Because I'm just going to be mindful and allow myself to feel what I need to feel and say what I need to say in order to heal. Because that's just what life is these constant roller coasters and up and down. And every time we waste a millisecond of energy on, oh man, I should have done that in the past. Like, I shoulda, coulda, wouldas, or a what ifs in the future.
You're shooting yourself.
You're shooting yourself, right? You're robbing yourself of the opportunity of being your best damn self right now.
Fuck yeah.
Right now. Because I went through that, right? When my husband passed away, for the weeks after he passed away, I just beat myself up because I could not remember if the very last thing I said to him the night before when he was standing in our garage was whether or not I said I love you before I said goodnight. I couldn't remember, and I still don't remember, right? Because he unexpectedly passed away the next morning. And I just kept beating myself up over it. And then I was like, wait a minute, enough of that, right? Because I had lost sight of what's most important to me as somebody who tries to practice mindfulness, and everything that I do is being present in the moment and not missing those opportunity for micro connections. all day. So yes, my husband is gone, but I have 15 years of micro connections, of little things that I can remember, like the time, like when we got coffee at this one place. And if I'd been dialed into my phone or obsessing about how many fucking calories were in that bagel that I was about to wolf down, I wouldn't have missed that stupid joke that he told us, right? Or, the GLF. He used to tell every place we went, he would say, can I get a GLF discount? And people would be like, what the fuck is a GLF discount? A good looking face discount. Right? And I would have missed those if I was like not able to be present and practice that mindfulness. So yes,
If you're still suffering.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've had pain, I've had tragedy, I've had all that stuff, but I've also had joy and laughter.
That's really amazing, Mel, because that really touches on what me and Beth were talking about last week about like victim mentality and being.
I was just going to say that, Matt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You didn't allow yourself to be a victim.
Oh, absolutely not. I mean, I am blessed.
Nobody would have blamed you. I think if you were a victim in that situation, right? Like society would have been like, oh, we get it, we understand. Like,
yeah, absolutely. I mean, I would have loved to have 15 more years with him, but I got to love him until his last day. That's awesome. I'm blessed in that way, right? I can't change it, but I can just hold on to the fact that we had a wonderful life together.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So when you were dealing with like your husband passing away, I know I came and saw you and to be with you. How did you find the whole mindful eating during that time? Because I remember after the service, I think for Winston, we went to your guys' favorite Italian restaurant. And you hadn't eaten maybe in even days or something, or maybe it wasn't even that day or something, right? And your best friend, I think it was, that was with you, was making sure that you ate or something. Can you explain that? Walk me through that again?
Absolutely.
You still deserve to eat, right?
Yes, absolutely still deserve to eat. The first couple of days after he passed away was just an absolute blur. So I couldn't even tell you what happened then. I still don't remember all of it. I remember I struggled. I absolutely struggled with eating after losing him. And I was aware that I was struggling, but not from a point of purposeful restriction, but just more of there was no hunger fullness. There was no hunger signals. There was nothing. It just, my body wasn't giving me anything to eat. And then my best friend, Teresa, she's like, let's set some alarms. So I was relying on alarms to like eat because it just wasn't there, which like, I'm not a doctor, but I'm just like, that's crazy. When I think about it, right. I'm just like, holy cow. Like there was no.
Well, there's obviously things going on with your hormones behind the scenes that were causing that.
It was just grief. And then my whole family was
saying grief and trauma. That's a lot,
Yeah. It was because it was just such a sudden thing.
Yeah.
It was a very sudden passing. So I wasn't struggling. And, going out to the memorial and this and that and that. And I remember eating and the food having zero taste. So I'm
There's
trying
no enjoyment,
to be mindful.
no nothing there.
Yeah, nothing. Yeah. It just wasn't there. And because I practice mindfulness, that is a very stark memory of me taking this bite and it tasting like absolutely nothing.
It's like COVID in a way, like when you have COVID.
And I was just, at first I was like, wait a minute. No, there was nothing there. So I was like, well, okay. So I did not eat. I did not nourish my body in the way that I needed to. And Winston passed away in September. And it was November that I was still struggling with that. I'd gone back to work in October. I wasn't doing direct practice. I just went back and I was doing administrative stuff, leadership type stuff, because I wasn't in headspace to work with patients. And I was still struggling. So I reached out to my dietitian in November and I was like, listen, I still don't have any cues to eat. I know that I'm not okay. My hair is thinning. Like I know that I'm not okay. And this is not intentional. I was like, help me. My dietitian, he immediately texted back and he's like, absolutely, get in here, get labs, whatnot. Anyway, long story short, from September 5th, when my husband passed away, to mid-November before Thanksgiving, got connected back in with my dietitian, labs, everything. I was malnourished that fast.
Just like that.
Yep. I had the labs to prove it. And I was just like shocked. I was like, oh my gosh. So he immediately, he's like, okay, we are going to track. And I was like,
Okay.
Jesse,
Okay.
what are we doing? He's like, we're tracking, bitch. And this is the kind of relationship I have with my dietitian. I was like, okay. And he gave me specifically what he wanted me to track every 2 hours. I set the alarms on my phone, and it took me with him and my regular GP and my endocrinologist, the whole team, right? Because again, diabetes and all that stuff. 2 months for me to pull myself up by eating and eating mindfully and tracking the two together to get my labs back to a baseline. I was to the point to where we were looking at eye supplements and all sorts of stuff because I was that malnourished.
Wow. That happened really quickly.
It was fast. And I was so shocked. And what shocked me the most is weight wise, I only went down about 20 pounds. That was it.
Over that whole period, of being malnourished.
Yeah. But metabolically, it was ridiculous how fast that happened. And I don't know if that happens to everybody, but I mean, wow. And then, so then I got it back up through being mindful with how I was eating and making sure that I was being very aware when I was sitting down to the meals, that I was really honing in on that mindful eating. So I was maximizing that opportunity, right? Most bang for the buck, most nutrient dense foods, and just eating every 2 hours. So I was essentially on a diet because I don't eat every 2 hours, but I was prioritizing that external prompt that my dietitian put me on, that I want you every 2 hours, food in front of your face, eat it.
Right. And obviously that wasn't a bad diet. That was not a harmful diet. That was a good diet for you, right? So
it was annoying as fuck.
I think one of those things too, like in my own marketing and just in marketing in general, is distinguish like between harmful diets and like, hey, we're like dieting, right? When we're in a fat loss phase, that's called dieting, right? Like there's nothing bad about that. We're just dieting down a little bit. So I think maybe just what I can do as a coach is just be more mindful of the terminology, I think, of how I'm saying these things. I loved there too, how you said you were eating mindfully, but you were also tracking, because they don't have to not exist together. They can coexist. It's my opinion. I almost want to call it like mindful tracking. Like, guys, to me, it's like, let's make calorie tracking 2.0. How do we make it even better? We can do that by applying mindfulness to it. That's my kind of like where I'd love to see it go.
I have to include mindfulness in every part of my eating because I am so chaotic, and I'm always on the go. And I know that about myself. And if I don't slow my own roll, I'm not going to nourish my body the way I need to. Yeah. Clearly, look what happened. But yeah, so I was mindfully tracking, and I had this big freaking cooler, like the kind that should have said like live organs in here. It was so big, and I would just carry that around and make sure I was eating every 2 hours.
Like a bodybuilder.
Right, which is so
carry a jug of water and a cooler of snacks and stuff.
Yeah, right. But I did it, and then once we got back to baseline, I was like, okay, I'm great, I'm done. I'm not tracking. I put it away, and I haven't picked it up again since. Other than
I love it.
Making sure I get my carbohydrates. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Fuck yeah. That's great. Which is what we always say, right? It's a tool. We agreed on that. We all agree on that.
It's a tool, not a rule.
My hunger cues, they came back eventually as time passed on. And I don't want to say my grief became less. My grief took up less room, that I was starting to return back to somewhat of my old self. Laughter started showing up in our house again. Things like that. It was nice.
Yeah.
Mel, I've got to ask you on record, did you ever imagine that I would be talking about mindful eating and coaching mindful eating when you met me a few years ago? Because how I was really resistant to this idea at first, wasn't I, of mindful eating? You won me over, the things you were telling me, because I rolled my eyes pretty hard at you at first. Some of the things you were telling me, right?
I would say
I would consult with you
when
and stuff would pop up on TikTok. I'm like, hey, what is this? Like, is this disorder? Can you explain to me this? Like all this other stuff, right?
And that's why I would say yes and no, because I distinctly remember you shared with me you were going to celebrate something with Riker. With food.
Something for my son. Yeah.
Yes.
I remember this.
Why do you have to celebrate with food? And you were like, Arr!
And I'm like, because that's what we do.
I was like, why?
I'm like, because.
And I just kept pushing back. And he's like, what do you mean? I was like, why? Tell me why. What else could you do? And then I saw that as like a catalyst for change. So yes and no. Because I'm always hopeful, right? That when I interact with individuals that I'm like, hey, here's this knowledge, do with it what you will. Not everyone's going to agree because everybody has different opinions, right? That's what makes the world so awesome, but also so shitty at the same time.
Right.
Is because some of those opinions are just garbage. Like, get out of here. But I love it. I love it that, Matt, that you can talk about this and make this shift and talk about uncomfortable topics. And I love that Beth is just like, what the fuck? Put down your fucking cauliflower pizza, you nut. I just love it because this is what is needed. We need the people that are going to get out there and say, stop doing this if you want these results. And these results aren't necessarily a bad thing. You can love your body and still desire to change it. Get the fuck out of here with those people that say you can't change your body. That means you don't love your body. Fuck off.
You're not body positive. You're not accepting your body. No, I can accept my body as it is.
And don't even get me started on the body positivity movement. That's a whole other thing that originated.
Oh, come on, Mel. Let's get started.
Women of color and everything else. But anyway, so because you need like, here's the results that I want. Okay, I want to help you get those results, but we're just not going to do it as fast as possible because those aren't sustainable results. Let's break it down and figure out, one, why do you want those results? Why are those results so fucking desirable for you? Why do you need to weigh 145 pounds? Why that number? Right? They're going to tie it into a time in their life where they felt their best in here. Right. And then you guys come in and you're like, okay, right. I'm going to give you the knowledge and the tools to do this in a sustainable way that doesn't have you drinking green juice, shit in your pants, and then getting over here and not being able to sustain it. Right. So that's why we need the Beth and the Matt. And then I just come in with a little sprinkling of Melness, and it's perfect.
I love it. Sprinkling of Melness.
A little cup of Mel. Beth, did you see Mel's shirt today, by the way?
I've been eyeing that fucking shirt and I'm like, okay, I love the spoon. I think she wore it when
it says you're a bitch.
Did she wear it when we met together?
It's like SpaghettiOs or something, right? In there. I fucking love that. That's awesome.
SpaghettiOs and on the spoon, you're a bitch.
Amazing.
Amazing.
I love it so much.
Mel, what do you think people get wrong about mindful eating?
I think they get it wrong in the terms of that it's hard and it's some sort of Buddha moment that they're just going to like, fucking birds are going to fly and the sun's going to shine or whatever. And that they don't realize how weird it is at first. So those are my top three. It's hard. It's not going to be a Buddha moment and it's weird as hell.
Why is it weird as hell?
Because suddenly you're going to do something that you've never done before. Is you're going to turn off your television, you're going to put down your phone, and it's just going to be you and this food in front of you. And guess what? That's also you and you. And that's uncomfortable.
That's the scary part.
To be present for yourself. Yes. A lot of times, so many people are not present for themselves. And that's the scary part. So it's going to be weird. It's going to be awkward. So if you're wanting to start your mindful eating journey, pick a meal that's the easiest one possible. I'm a firm believer. I'm swimming downstream. I'm not trying to go upstream. That's too much work right now. I'll do that later. So we're going to go downstream. Pick something that works for you with your schedule as it is already. And then just give yourself 5 minutes of sitting there uninterrupted, no distractions, and then just try to eat that food. That's how you kind of slowly work into.
What does somebody do with those unpleasant and uncomfortable feelings that are inevitably going to come up in that 5 minutes?
Yeah. So you learn how to what's called sit with it. And that just means you can recognize it and then move on. So if you're eating your little, I don't know, Tostino's pizza rolls and you're like, oh, I should not be eating these. Just recognize it. Oh, says who? And then move on, right? Challenge it back, but don't invest any additional energy into anything other than being present in the moment with the food. Because your mind's going to wander. You're going to think of your grocery list. You're going to do this. You're going to do that. And that's okay. But bring it back, right? There's no perfect way of building that mindful muscle. Like I still will be in the middle of trying to mindfully eat and be thinking, I got to do this. And then I'll just pull it back and focus.
You have to be really intentional with it, even a seasoned mindful eater for sure. It's one of those things that gets away from you.
Yeah, some people, it helps to set an intention before they go into the meal. So maybe their intention is, I'm going to go in and I'm going to focus on how the food feels in my mouth. Some people like that. Some people like, I'm going to go in and I'm going to try to pick out the different spices. Whatever the intention is. So if I want something sweet, my intention is, I really want something sweet right now. So what can I get that's going to hit the box for me? Do I want a warm, hot sweet? Do I want a cold sweet? Whatever. I'm not labeling the sweet. My intention is to have fucking sweet. So I'm going to go and I'm going to get it.
I had that same kind of thought process the other night when I was wanting something sweet, and I ended up going with some oatmeal, some brown sugar sweetened oatmeal, because I wanted something sweet, but at the same time, I wanted something nutritious and that was going to make me feel good and perform well. So I had the best of both worlds there by having a nutritious meal and something sweet.
Yeah. And that's great if those are all the reasons why you wanted that particular food. But if the only reason why you wanted oatmeal because it was sweet, that's okay too.
Sure. Right.
Yeah.
If that was the intention. That's called, we got to satisfy that craving and not deny it really.
Right. Because a lot of times when people struggle with their nutrition is they get into this all or nothing mindset, right? And that gets it into that scarcity mindset. And we want to move to that abundance mindset. Yes, we all know that there are more nutrient dense foods than others. You know, there's sometimes foods and there's always foods, right? So how allowing yourself to factor in all the aspects of eating is what makes it enjoyable, right? So not only does it taste good, is it the right temperature? Is it the right texture? Are you enjoying it in a place that you like? Right? Do you have a favorite spoon? Do you have a favorite bowl? I do. My children don't touch that. Do you have a favorite cup? Like, make it an enjoyable experience. Don't just wolf down a cheeseburger in your car.
Food should be something that we enjoy, damn it. I think at the end of the day, if people just started enjoying their meals and their food and truly enjoying them, right? Not just scarfing down McDonald's. Oh my God, that was so good. I need more, right? That's mindless. If we just enjoyed our food a little bit more, we would be so much better off.
Yeah. And I want to, when we were in Michigan, and I want to talk about mindfulness because you even said, oh, that's really mindful of you, Beth, right?
Yeah.
So Sarah made this wonderful meal of like her homemade meat sauce with pasta and this fucking insane garlic bread. But before that, I was eating, I had her fatu salad, I had a ton of appetizers, and it was like 8:39 by the time everything was ready. And I wasn't really hungry at that point, but I wanted to try Sarah's fucking amazing sauce, right? And so I had some sauce and I had the bread and I left the pasta out, not because I think carbs are bad, but because I have spaghetti. I can have that anytime I want to, right? I'm not going to be able to have Sarah's amazing homemade meat sauce or the insane garlic bread that she made with like all kinds of different cheeses. So I chose just to have my meat sauce and the garlic bread to dip it in so I can actually taste what she had. And I was being mindful of the fact that if I was to add everything else, I would have been extremely full, which I did the other night. And I was super uncomfortable. And I'm not doing that again. So it's really about being mindful about the choices that you are making in that moment. And I thought about it before. I was like, I was mindful before it even happened. I'm like, okay, this is what I'm going to do to make sure that I can experience this and not be uncomfortable at the same time.
Absolutely. You thought about future you, not just present you and how you felt in the moment. That's really such a key component of mindful eating is thinking about the future. 5 hours from now, 6 hours from now, tomorrow, how do you want to feel?
Right.
Sure. And I want to just throw this out there too, speaking about Michigan, because I overate on Michigan. I ate a little more than I wanted to. I mean, what did I say? I ate an entire bag of those fucking chips with the chocolate.
Yeah, those were so good. Yeah.
Oh, they were so good. But I overate them. But you know what I did? I mindfully overate them. That might not make sense, but I did it with intention. I knew I was doing it. I didn't guilt myself. I didn't shame myself.
Right.
I allowed myself to do it and I moved the fuck on from it.
Right.
Now, if it becomes where I'm doing that all the time, then that's when it's a problem. And that's not true mindful eating. But, on the occasion when we're doing things like that, for sure. I think, and that's what people get wrong too, is like, oh my God, I overate. So I fucked up. I'm so bad. Like, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But what we used in those situations, like we don't want to feel uncomfortable and maybe not sure if we're going to make it to the bathroom or whatever. Right. So we were going to avoid doing that by eating the right amounts of food and the foods that you actually enjoy. Like you wanted the sauce, you got to eat the sauce. You still had carbs, you still had all that good shit. You just didn't have an overabundance of carbs.
Right.
And if you do fuck up, because we're all going to fuck up, that's what we do. We're human.
Yes.
You get on track with your next meal.
Yes. Yep. Absolutely.
Your next mindful meal. That's just how you get back on track.
Yep. Agree.
Next mindful meal. Fuck yeah. This has been great.
I love it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Super awesome.
Fuck yeah. Mel, we really appreciate you coming on and cutting crap with us.
Yeah. Thanks for coming on.
Long overdue.
I know.
I know you're not very active on the socials anymore. Nope. You've taken a few years off after you realized that TikTok is fucking crazy.
I was getting banned too much, y'all.
You were, oh my God, you were getting banned left and right.
Oh my.
The nature of the stuff you talk about with eating disorders and things like that, I think. But long story short, where the fuck can people find you if they want to communicate with you, contact you?
Gosh.
With you, chat with you, whatever.
That is a great question. So I'm still on TikTok. I'm just not on there. So I would just say through Instagram, and you guys can put my Instagram in the show notes.
We can definitely do that. We can definitely do that.
Because it's easier to put it in there than for me to say it out loud. It's
right.
For
I
sure.
have to actually look.
For sure.
I'm not even sure. But I've listened to y'all enough to know that it'll be in the show notes.
It sure the fuck will be in the show notes. It will be. And I wanted to throw this out there. Coach Mel and I do work together. She's on our team. We've been friends for a very long time, even before we were working together, just like myself and Beth have been friends before we started a podcast together. So just throwing that out there that we do work together just so people understand like the relationship there. So yeah.
Yes, I just do the mindful part.
Yeah.
I don't do any of that fitness
You don't
stuff.
do the fat loss or strength or anything like that. That's what us other coaches do. You're the mindful eating queen.
Yeah.
Love it. Love it. Well, thank you so much Mel for coming on.
Yes, thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Anytime.
We'll chat with you later.
Bye.
Hope you enjoyed this episode, so why not share with a friend who needs to hear it? Send us a DM on Instagram or email us at cutthecrappod@gmail.com and join our Patreon at patreon.com/cutthecrappodcast. As always, we appreciate you and thanks for being here.